Biohack. Today we're here with Sylvia Tabor, I think that's how you say it, probably better known as Biohacking Chick. She has a bit of a crazy story. She grew up in a small town in Poland and moved to the US when she was 13, and that's when she started getting into biohacking. So she seriously has so much good information on her Instagram. I swear every day I'm watching her story and learning something new. So definitely check that out after this episode. So today we're going to talk about free or inexpensive ways to biohack your health. Why don't you go ahead, Sylvia, and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, like you said, I grew up in Poland and moved to US when I was 13. And since moving to US, I started having, a lot of different health conditions and just struggled with very low energy and whatnot. And that's kind of like what set me on this, quote unquote biohacking journey, just trying to improve my health and energy. And I always wanted to be better at school and whatnot. And, falling asleep in class just wasn't doing it for me. So I always try to figure out a good way to, keep going, even in sports and in studies. So that's kind of what set me on with, finding out good ways to do that.
Okay. And have you always been relatively healthy other than sort of like the energy issues, or was there anything else you struggled with?
Since I was a little kid, I always had a lot of digestive issues. Even when I was 5 years old, there were some, episodes when I would have like a lot of red rashes all over my skin after eating eggs. Or I've always, since I was a little kid, we always had dairy, which never seemed to be a problem for me. I grew up on a farm, so whatever we grew on the farm, that's what we consumed. There's very little processed foods in general. And if there was, it was sort of like a treat, like a Christmas type of thing, that we got to indulge in, like chocolate or something like that, or even exotic fruits like what we consider exotic, that would be like oranges, which we would never get in Poland,
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would say that I did have some health issues, since I was a little kid, but it really escalated once we moved to US. And in Poland, we weren't really bombarded with like the blue lights or EMF, all that stuff. Wi-Fi, there was nothing like Wi-Fi back in Poland. There was no internet where I grew up, and when I moved to US, there wasn't much of that either, but the blue light certainly was a concern. And I just noticed that whenever we would go shopping to like places like supermarkets, when they're just lit with blue light, it's blue light everywhere. My sister would get like really red, itchy eyes that, my parents couldn't figure out like what was going on. And I felt depressed. Like I was so like emotional all the time, which wasn't normal for me. I was 13, I was at the teenage years, and I thought, oh, maybe it's hormones, stuff like that. But weirdly enough, it was always happen like after a trip to like a supermarket. So, and that was another thing that my mom was like, oh, what's going on? Are you just missing your friends from Poland? Because I literally was crying all the time. And that was another thing we couldn't figure out. But, I started playing around with nutrition at that point. And that kind of helped a little bit, just going away from like all the processed American foods to more what I was used to back in Poland. But I was still pretty heavy on dairy because I didn't know the difference between, the dairy I grew up on versus the dairy that is available in the US. And that's a huge, huge difference. And so that kind of still, I noticed that it was making me tired and sleepy all the time. And, from then on, I was just adjusting and playing with different diets and stuff like that just to improve my energy levels. And then later on, I became involved in playing soccer. I joined teams in high school. Then I broke my leg, and I was used to eating a lot, and because I was active,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't put on weight. But after I messed up my knee, the weight started coming on very, very quickly. And again, I was just feeling tired all the time, and that kind of, set me on this experiment with Atkins diet, which my version of that wasn't very healthy because it was basically mostly cheese, American cheese.
Yeah.
And even though I did manage to lose a lot of weight, and by no means, like, when you're a teenager, going on different diets is definitely not healthy for any teenager, especially for hormones and stuff like that, because later on it can lead to many other issues. But that's what I did, Atkins diet, and it helped me, and I definitely lost a lot of weight. But at the same time, my hair started falling out. I definitely wasn't eating enough calories. I would eat like a few slices of cheese, a few slices of some processed meat, and maybe romaine lettuce or something like that with tomatoes and things like that. So, I started losing my hair. My nails started thinning out, and I wasn't feeling great at all. And from then on, it's just, I went on this journey of different diets, from like juice cleansing to vegan, raw vegan, to ketogenic, now carnivore, which I find is most healing for my body right now. But yeah, it's been a crazy journey, along with, later on finding out about the blue lights, finding out about the EMFs that, we're exposed to on daily basis, and they're just everywhere. There's no way around it, just avoiding it, and diving into really good quality water, making sure that, there's no pesticides, no glyphosate in the water. So yeah, it's been it's been a journey, just in every aspect of my life, pretty much. Just from making sure that I go outside, absorb the natural sunlight, do a little bit of grounding, that my bare skin touches the ground itself. That's important. So yeah, like I said, it's been a crazy journey.
Yeah. Okay, that kind of leads into the next thing we were going to talk about. So first off, could you just define what biohacking is exactly?
Well, for me, biohacking is basically manipulating the surroundings, and also the diet. So just manipulating in a way to optimize my being, my physical, mental, spiritual being. So it doesn't have to be necessarily just a diet, but environment itself as well. And, playing around with different substances, like, psychedelics, which I've done a lot in the past, just to grow spiritually and expand the mind a little bit more. So yeah, that's what biohacking is for me. I know a lot of people, other biohackers, like to quantify, measure everything and anything they can. For me, it used to be like that. Right now, I'm kind of like more into just letting it be, because I've noticed that the more I focused on just trying to measure everything, put everything into a spreadsheet, wear all these gadgets on myself, it became stressful. Like, I remember going on a ride, and I tend to do like long distance bike rides that are like 100 miles and up. I would forget to bring my heart monitor with me. And, after I was done, I was like, oh my God, I forgot my heart monitor. And it's almost made me feel like, okay, then it doesn't count.
It didn't
like
count.
I didn't do it. It's like, can I do it again? Like, I want to do it again because I want to see like how many calories I burned, or what was my best distance, or whatever, how fast was I going. So it just became it got to a point where it became stressful. Like I couldn't go on a run without, my Oura ring, or whatever, because it was just like I needed to see a number and stuff like that. Versus now it's just like, let's go out there, enjoy the sun, let's enjoy the fresh air, and just be grateful that I can go out and move, and it doesn't matter what number I get from it, I just want to go out there and do it. Just the simple fact of doing it counts for me now. So I kind of became a little bit more lenient in a way, that, everything does not have to be measured. I still like to check certain things like, my glucose or my ketones here and there, especially if I do fast. Like, I'm always curious, like, oh, I'm feeling really good right now. I wonder what my ketones are at this point, just to, see and compare, like, okay, I was feeling pretty shitty, day ago, and my ketones were this low or whatever, or maybe my glucose, stuff like that. So I definitely found like a middle ground for testing.
Yeah. I can totally relate to that. Sometimes if my Garmin's was like low battery, it would be like, oh no, it's not. Oh no, gotta stop now. Yeah. So let's talk about some biohacks that are free that you think everyone could start incorporating into their life.
Oh my gosh, the best biohack that's free is basically going outside and being not necessarily in the sun, but natural light. I think it's so important, and just being barefoot. And I do realize that not everybody lives, in a sunny place when it's always warm and you can go outside and barefoot and not freeze your butt off. But that's even probably better if you're somewhere where it's cold, because then you get the cold thermogenesis, and that's how you basically build the brown fat, which in turns burns the white adipose tissue, which we basically don't want. So you can take advantage of that as well. It's basically free cryotherapy if you live somewhere on the East Coast or Midwest in the US or in Europe. I think actually at this time of year they're having surprisingly warm weather, but usually when you're somewhere cold, take advantage of the cold, take advantage of the natural sunlight, and just make sure that you touch the ground with your bare feet, and that's healing on its own, and it's free. And if you want to take advantage of even more thermogenesis or cold exposure, you can always do like the hot cold shower, which has so many benefits, especially in the morning. If you want to skip your cup of joe and still feel energized, I mean, there's nothing better than cold shower. It takes time to get used to. And some people start out with just doing face dunks in ice water to kind of adjust. But it's amazing the benefit on the vagus nerve that it has, just cold exposure and doing the face dunks in the ice water. That's free as well. You don't have to spend tons of money in cryotherapy, and and get all the benefits from that alone.
Mm-hmm. Is there a time, like how long of a cold shower you should have, or is it just as long as you can go?
I mean, you can start out with seconds and build up to minutes. And, I've done 10 minutes to a point where, my skin became numb. Right now I live in Arizona, so the water doesn't really get that cold. But I think just starting out with even seconds, 30 seconds, if you can handle it, make sure you breathe through it when it gets hard. Many people are probably familiar with Wim Hof breathing. That definitely helps a lot. It's really hard to stand in a shower and just not breathe. It's really hard. So, and the breathing alone will help to wake your brain up too, in the morning. So, whatever you can start out with, and then just build up to longer and longer, and you'll notice how easier it gets, which with each time.
Yeah. Okay. And do you think like quality sleep would be considered a biohack?
Absolutely. I mean, that sleep is, I value good quality sleep probably the most out of all the biohacks. And it's also free and simple because just making sure that your room is super dark. There's no flickering lights, no blue lights, basically turn everything off, as well as your Wi-Fi in the house. Turn all that off. Make sure there's no light. Make sure it's cold in the room. I mean, personally, I love sleeping in cold room. And I always, whenever I travel and I'm in a hotel, I always crank the cold up, and when people walk in, they're always like, oh my God, like, what is this fridge? But I love it that way. And I sleep so good. And I notice even on my Aura ring that whenever my room is colder, my deep sleep gets better. And my REM is pretty good as well. So cold, dark, that's basically like the top two when it comes to making sure it sleep. And then I think blue lights before going to bed. There are so many inexpensive blue light blocking glasses that you can get off of Amazon. There are better quality ones that really block like all the different rays of blue, which are they're more expensive, but I feel like they're worth the expense. But yeah, you can get pretty much any of them on Amazon. And that definitely, for me, I notice it improves my deep sleep. I would go from like 30 minutes of deep sleep to like hour and a half just from using the blue light blocking glasses, probably like an hour before going to bed. So that's top three that I've noticed most improvement when it comes to deep sleep and improving sleep quality overall.
Okay, and meditation? Do you meditate at all? Yep. Or think
Yes,
it's good?
I think it's amazing. If you have the time to meditate, morning and night is probably the best. But again, it doesn't have to be 20 minutes, every time you meditate. It can start out with 5 minutes. And that's how I used to do it. And now I'm pretty busy. So for me, I've been experimenting with ibogaine, and it's pretty much like meditation in a pill. You take
Oh, okay.
ibogaine one day, and then you experience all these positive benefits I would get from meditation. So that's kind of like my hack for getting the benefits of meditation minus the time that you have to spend doing it. But yes, meditation has such an amazing effect on the brain alone, and that if you do meditate in the morning, the rest of the day is just totally different. I remember when I did it regularly and I would measure with Muse, I would notice like how much more like even my mood would be, and I wouldn't get as angry, and like traffic wouldn't get me as angry. So there were so many benefits to that as well, and just being more present in the day. That's certainly one of the other benefits that I noticed from meditation, and just not getting angry at people for whatever reason.
Yeah, just not triggered as easily by things.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly.
And are there any biohacks that maybe cost a little bit of money, but that you think are probably worth it? I know you mentioned the blue light glasses. Is there anything else?
Blue light glasses, the red light therapy, I feel like it's very beneficial. There are pretty inexpensive units that you can find on Alibaba, and where I purchased mine. And I think with the shipping for a small one, I paid like $60. Sometimes shipping can cost more than the actual unit itself, but you're basically a lot of people are skeptical about it because you purchasing from basically China manufacturers. but it still works. It still has same specs pretty much as Juve, which is a little bit more expensive unit if you want to purchase that. And then what other ones? I like to use cold laser, but
Oh, okay.
that can be also a little bit more expensive. Recently, I had a knee injury, and I've utilized, I have like a wearable wrist unit, which also improves blood flow, improves absorption of vitamin D, and also helps with sleep too. So it creates a little bit, gives you like serotonin boost. So I use that frequently, and then it has different adjustments when you can kind of plug it in into your nose, which stimulates the mitochondria in your brain. So it kind of wakes you up as well in the morning, and has healing benefits to it as well. You know, the more you can improve your mitochondria, the more healing you're going to experience. And it also has a plug-in for your ears, and that's another way to kind of wake up your brain, make everything work a little bit faster. So there's like V-Light or something like that. I know Ben Greenfield is a huge promoter of that brand. I use a unit. It's a medical unit that I use that I purchased from Germany. It works great as well, and it's not. I wouldn't say it's inexpensive, but that could be another option. There's Human Charger, which also costs, I think, around $100, I want to say. You can put it in your ears, and it also has light that shines into your ear canal, and it also works too if you travel a lot. So if you, let's say you go from Europe or even East Coast to West Coast in US, it kind of aligns your circadian rhythm so that you're not like jet lag after a flight like that. So it also works great. I don't know how many people would benefit from it. I think it also works great for even just during like winter time to get the circadian rhythm aligned with, like, you know, the time changes and all that stuff, and weather changes.
Do you wear them all the time, or just for
I
how long?
personally don't. I do use the cold laser. I do use that daily. But the Human Charger, I only use that when I am getting ready to travel, and they have a specific protocol that you're supposed to use them like a couple days before you hop on a plane, or if you go to, you know, a different time zone. So they kind of their app kind of shows you, you know, the steps, like when you need to start the program in order to align with the different time zone.
Oh, okay.
So that's another thing. Let me think, is there anything else that I
Someone had asked what you thought about standing desks. Do you think those are
I mean,
of any use?
I when I used to work in a corporate, I requested one for myself, and I think it can be beneficial, but you should always have the option to sit down, because after a while you notice that, you know, your feet will get, at least mine would get like pretty swollen from standing all the time. And I think just having the option when you can adjust the standing desk from, you know, standing to sitting is probably a better option, because standing all the time is not good either. But, you know, depending on how much work you're doing, if it's just a couple hours, that's perfect, you know. But if it's longer than that, if you have like a 9 to 5 type of job in the office, then I don't think that's probably optimal.
Okay. And are there any biohacks that you think are a hoax, that you don't think are worth the money, or that don't really do anything?
I feel like probably, you know, the cryotherapies.
Okay.
I feel like, not that they don't do anything, you know, it's just there are certain ones that I feel like can cause a little bit more harm than do good. Plus, I feel like cold water immersion is probably you benefit from that more than from like the cold gas exposure. And with the gas, you can get like this burn almost, and it's so painful. I've had that once, and it was really painful. And I didn't honestly notice the same benefits as I would get from just using ice bath or doing now there are so many places that are opening up where you have cold and hot baths, so you can just jump from one to the other, or you have cold and then you can jump into sauna. So I feel like just sticking to cold water ice bath, that's probably better than doing the cold gas. So I don't want to necessarily say that there's no benefit to it, because yeah, there might be small benefit to that, but you know, for the expense, I don't think it's worth it, because you can just, you know, hack it yourself at home with ice.
Okay, is there anything else, or that's the one you can think of right now?
A lot of supplements, if you want to consider that the biohack. You know, I feel like so many supplements are just useless, you know, and just from my own experience, I've spent so much money on supplements that cost, you know, I would spend $150 or even $200 on a certain supplement, and all it would cause or do for me was just give me a expensive rash on my skin, you know, and nothing else. So I feel like most of the supplements are just a waste of money. You know, you can get more benefits just from changing your nutrition and your diet and improving that, and especially all the detox you know, cleanses and all that stuff. Like I feel like that is such a waste of money.
Yeah. Okay. And so let's talk about the carnivore diet a little bit. How did you exactly get started with that, and how long have you been doing it?
So it's been a year since I've been doing the carnivore diet, and I basically started because I went through 𝗥𝗘𝗔𝗗 infection that was caused by MRSA, and that I had to have 3 surgeries. And after that, my stomach was just messed up from all the antibiotics and whatnot, and I couldn't handle pretty much any food. And prior to that, I was ketogenic. You know, like I mentioned, I experimented with all different kinds of diets you can think of, and I got to a point where even vegetables started bothering me. The only couple vegetables that were okay were celery and romaine lettuce, which are not very exciting. And then I started hearing a little bit more about carnivore diet on Instagram, and then I heard Dr. Shawn Baker talk about it on different podcasts, and it sounded interesting to me, and I was at a point when I was pretty desperate when it came to, you know, just healing my gut. So I decided to try it out and see what happens. And I was at a point also where, you know, the vegan diet kind of destroyed my digestive system. You know, got to a point when I developed severe IBD, and yeah, I just struggled with all kinds of digestive issues. So I decided to give the carnivore diet a try, even though it was mentally challenging coming from, you know, vegan background, and, you know, all the messages that vegans spread about, you know, colon cancer and meat putrefying in your gut for months and months. You know, that was scary to me. And then the environmental issues associated with eating, you know, only meat, that, you know, that was scary as well. But, you know, I did what I always do. I researched it very well. And then I decided to just jump on it and try it out, give it at least 30 days to see what happens. And ever since, I've been, you know, it's been over a year now, and still carnivore, still thriving, and my colon is still pretty in good shape, I would say. And I don't feel like, you know, there's any meat really putrefying in my colon, and actually digest very efficiently.
So what are the benefits you've noticed from it other than your digestion?
For me, definite skin improvement. My skin has cleared up dramatically. Also, hair, skin, not skin, but nails started like getting, my hair started getting thicker and growing faster. My nails, same thing. And a lot of mental benefits, I was having such huge mood swings, constant up and down, and just, I wouldn't say depression, but on ketogenic diet, I still experience a lot of like feeling of like loneliness, where it would kind of like made me feel like sad and down. And on carnivore diet, that's all gone, like the anxiety is gone, and all the even like hormonal ups and downs, that's gone as well. And I've always struggled with anemia, and my doctors kept telling me that you're gonna have to keep taking, iron supplements, and those really never helped me. And with red meat, I mean, I've tested my blood and everything is looking perfect. So I definitely, health-wise, I feel much stronger. Mentally, I feel much more even, and finally, like the anxiety I've been dealing with, it's gone. So the number one benefit I would say for me is the brain benefit that I get from it. And then, weight wise, I no longer go up and down with the weight, and even the ketogenic diet, I would struggle with, binge eating. I would, I would binge and then I would fast, and I would kind of, you know, say to myself, oh, it's just feasting and fasting, where I knew that when I feasted, it was basically me losing control around food and just binge eating. So that for me started kind of, it was a sign that it wasn't good. Like I needed to change something to change that, because I didn't want to go back and forth between binging and fasting. And the carnivore diet, that definitely doesn't happen. If I do eat good quality meat, that's a little bit fattier, sometimes fish, eggs, same thing. It satisfies me and doesn't lead to any binges whatsoever.
And so do you do any fasting now, or do you? Yeah.
I do, but they're more kind of like natural. If I do maybe in one meal eat more than I needed to, for the amount of activity I did in a day, and I wake up the next day still not feeling hungry, I won't eat. I'm more sort of in tune with my body right now, where I listen to, my hunger signals versus just like having that urge in my brain, like, oh yeah, I could eat, even though I'm not really hungry.
Yeah.
So now it's more like I'm in tune with my body. I can listen to it better. If I don't feel like eating for 24 hours, I won't eat, and not, just because it's noon, it doesn't mean that you have to eat. And I'm kind of, I got better at that, with the carnivore diet. And sometimes I'll still have like digestive problems. Actually, now just moving from California to Phoenix, I'm experiencing a little bit of digestive issues. And I don't know if it's like the environmental change or maybe just stress from moving. So now I'm kind of, I've been fasting for 27 hours now and feeling good. I'm not feeling hungry at all. And when I do feel hungry, I'll probably eat, but I am not against fasting. I just feel that sometimes women can overdo it, and fasting is a stressor. So it will increase your cortisol. It will have an effect on your adrenals. And I see many women, they will fast. On top of that, they will drink coffee, which also stresses the adrenals. And then on top of that, they will work out fasted. And that's another stress. It increases your cortisol. And then, women wonder, oh, why am I not losing weight? If that's their purpose of the fast. And that's basically why, you know, because all your stress hormones are elevated. Your body is not going to focus on burning the body fat. It's just going to focus on, you know, I have to manage the stress right now. You know, men, of course, they benefit from all of that. They can load up on coffee, fast for days, and put out a really mean, you know, workout in a gym. But for most women, unfortunately, that doesn't seem to work that well. And not to say that there aren't women who will benefit from that, you know, it's all very individual, but taking it a little bit easier when fasting, especially if you want to heal something, that's probably the best way to do it.
And do you think any supplements are required for a carnivore diet, or is meat enough?
Personally, I do not take any supplements. Now that I moved to Phoenix, where it is much hotter, I mean, it's like 80s to 90s now, and that's not even summer yet. I feel like I will need definitely more electrolytes in this environment, because, you know, just sitting out here when it's already almost 5 p.m., it's cooling off and I'm already sweating. I do feel like I do need a little bit more electrolytes, but I haven't, you know, maybe when I do fast, like in the past when I fasted, I would add a little bit of electrolytes to my water, things like that. But aside from electrolytes, I don't feel like on carnivore diet you do need to supplement with anything. You know, some people do say that if you want to maintain the glycine to methionine ratio, just to keep the inflammation down, can be beneficial. So some people do collagen supplements with their steaks. Other people, I like to eat chicken feet when I make my chicken broth, but then I eat the chicken feet which are super collagenous. So that can be, you know, considered a supplement, not necessarily, you know, not everyone in the carnivore community does like nose to tail eating. They find it simpler to just do steaks every single day. So that's what they do, you know. But is there a benefit to doing that? I personally haven't experienced, you know, any benefit for having a more collagen in a diet. You know, sometimes, yes, they're like with the nails and hair, I will notice that my hair will start growing a little bit faster. So that might be one benefit. But in terms of how I feel, I haven't noticed anything, you know, in terms of inflammation or energy levels. I haven't noticed any improvement in that. But certainly, you know, just having steaks, it's easier. You know, you wake up in the morning, if you have an air fryer, pop that steak in, you know, it's done in 8 minutes, depending how you like it done. And that's super simple.
All right. Well, I think that's everything for today. So thank you for coming on. And why don't you tell people where they can find you online?
I'm on Instagram at biohacking.chick. I do have a website, biohackingchick.com.